I wasn't that great of a student up through 8th grade, but I'd been I had now solidified in my mind that that's what I wanted to pursue was this career as a Navy pilot. So between my parents and I agreed I probably needed to buckle down and do better at school if I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. That was a very good step to meet that end. So uh, we all agreed that I would go away to a military prep school for high school, which is not common. Most kids don't do that, but I went away to this military prep school. It worked out really well for me because I actually did really well there. And that helped get me into the Naval Academy, I think. Also, being a distance runner, I believe, helped a bit. Um, I did well enough there at the academy to get a pilot slot, not by much, but and as a we may get to it later, but I also had some interest in special warfare. Knew nothing about the SEAL community before I went to Naval Academy. Once I got there, I started thinking maybe that's the path I wanted to follow. So I started following that path a bit. But the interesting thing is I didn't have the grades by the time I graduated to get a slot to go be a SEAL officer. So they said, what else would you like to be? I'm like, well, I came here to be a pilot. I'll be happy doing that. So I went off to go to flight school and never really looked back.
The higher grades were required to be a SEAL officer than to be a pilot.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. I mean,
it all comes down to numbers. So before 9/11, the Naval Academy would get 16 slots per year to send a student to BUD/S. That's Basic Underwater Demolition School in Coronado, where young men become SEALs. And so 16 billets, they called it, is the slot you're competing for. And I think there's about 1,000 kids for every graduating class from the Naval Academy. So, and not everybody wants to do that, of course, but I think there was maybe 90, 95 of us that thought we wanted to do that. And they put you through a lot of training and difficult stuff to see if you really have what it takes to make it through if you were to go to BUD/S. So I think by the time they finished all that training, there were 26 of us left. So 26 of us were qualified to pick that slot. And they line you up in this giant line according to your class rank, number 1 through 1,000. And you're in this line. I was number 535 out of 1,000. So right dead in the middle of the class. And those 16 slots to go be a SEAL had already come and gone. I was like number 21 out of the 26 of us. So couldn't go do that. But I'm like, that's all good. I initially came here because I thought I wanted to go fly jets. And I'm totally happy doing that too. So, and there were still, I think I was like the 126th guy out of 135 to get a pilot slot. So I barely got the pilot slot. So I was lucky enough to get a pilot slot and I went to Pensacola, Florida and Texas to go through flight school.
That sounds like the most kind of nerve-wracking game show ever, where they're just sort of working their way down a line, handing out the cool prize.
Oh, yeah.
And you were just thinking,
yeah,
please still be, because in my mind, you're 500, and I don't want to be rude, but 530 odd or whatever you said is actually below average.
Yeah. Yep, it is.
So you must have been thinking, are there going to be any flight slots left by the time they get down to me?
There actually was a computer program online that showed you where your relative position was.
Right.
Which sounds crazy looking back because computer technology, back then it's so archaic. But there was this program you could log online and kind of see roughly where. So you kind of already had a pretty good idea how it's going to shake out.
Okay.
But I was sweating it. I was like, man, I hope I get a pilot slot because I don't want to go to a ship. It's funny because you figure the Navy, most officers are going to go serve as an officer on a ship. But most of them at that school don't want to go do that. They'd rather go do something else. Of course, it seems cool or I got lucky. Better lucky than good, we always say.
And so off you go to flight school and your dream, actually, you say your older brother flew F-14s. And also I should point out for anyone who's not a Top Gun geek like me, F-14s that's the plane from Top Gun. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's your dream is to fly that, but going to flight school and that flying an F-14 that's not a certainty at that point. You're going to fly something,
right?
But not necessarily that.
Yeah, you have to compete every step along the way. So you start off in a little turboprop called a T-34. You can Google it. It's a syllabus with 40 flights, something like that. A lot of academics, some simulators, all this and that. So everything is graded and you're ranked against your peers every step along the way. And so when you finish that syllabus, and we called it primary flight training. So when you finish primary flight training, depending on your grade point average, once again, they line you up in a line and you're not standing in a line. It's all done kind of on paper, but you're assigned, your number 1 or your number I don't know, maybe 25 kids might graduate each week or something like that. So if you're somewhere between 1 and 25, and you're given a piece of paper, you put your desires of, I want jets, or I want props, or I want helicopters. Those are the three choices. And you put your choices down and you submit those. And the Navy says, well, this week we need so many jet slots and so many prop or fixed wing propeller plane pilots, and then this many helicopter pilots. And so you're hoping that there's enough jet slots that you can get one. And some weeks the Navy says, sorry, folks, we don't need any jet folks. We don't need any jet pilots this week. Or we have all jet pilots this week. So again, it's better lucky than good, but I did well enough that I got a jet slot. And then when you get to jet school, so now you're flying a different aircraft, and same thing, there's a syllabus, and you start off with simulators and academics and tests. And then you start flying the aircraft, and there's probably 50 or 60 flights, and you're graded in every single thing. And same thing, when you finish that syllabus, now it's like, okay, the Navy needs, it might be 8 kids to graduate, every 3 weeks or 4 weeks. It's like the Navy needs 2 F-14 pilots and 3 F-18 pilots and 1 EA-6B Prowler pilot and 3 S-3 Viking pilots. And you're like, well, I really want to fly F-14s. That's kind of why I'm here. I'm hoping I get that slot. And I didn't smoke the program. I was not impressing anybody too much, but I did just well enough to get one of those F-14 slots. So I feel very fortunate, lucky that it all worked out the way I'd hoped it would.
Yeah, you got to be lucky, and then lucky, and then lucky, all the way down.
Yep.
Also, this is,
you're not kidding.
This is 8 years after Top Gun. Is surely, in my mind, everybody on that program wants to fly F-14s, or is that not quite the case?
Well, so backing up a step, the breakout between jets, because you have the jet pipeline, you got the prop pipeline, you got the helicopter pipeline. In general, the top third go jets, the middle third go props, and the bottom third go helicopters. But there's a lot of helicopter pilots, if they're watching this, are shaking their fist. And I have some good friends that did very, very well and graduated number 1, better than me in some cases, and wanted to fly helicopters. And of course, they put that as number 1 on their dream sheet. Everybody else is like, thank you for taking this bullet for us. But in general, most people, I think, wanted to fly jets. And then, so that's roughly how it would work out, and there's tons of prop pilots out there that are way better pilots than me, tons of helicopter pilots out there that are way better pilots than me. I feel bad for them. And again, I was lucky. But then once you're in the jet pipeline, how many of them really wanted to fly F-14s versus, say, F-18s? I don't think that's as given as you would think, given that this is 1996, 97 now time frame. This is about 10 years now after the movie came out. Yeah, there was some of those peers of mine were very inspired by that movie. Maybe that's why they were there. But you got to realize that a lot of these people are very pragmatic. They're very smart. And they already saw the writing on the wall that the F-18 is newer. It's going to be around longer. You might get more flight time in it because it doesn't break as often. So people thinking along those lines were already thinking, I'd rather fly F-18s than F-14s because it's a smarter career move to do that. I was like, screw that, man. I want to fly that beast.
Yeah.
I was not smart, and it was not pragmatic. And I just, the emotion and the passion for that airplane was what drove me. And again, I feel lucky that it worked out.
If you enjoyed that, you can listen to the full podcast by clicking right here.